My neighbor kept calling the police on me, then he accidentally got himself arrested. I bought my house 5 years ago, nothing fancy, just a small place in a quiet neighborhood. At least that's what I expected. Unfortunately, I ended up living next to a guy named Greg. Greg seemed normal when I first moved in. He even welcomed me to the neighborhood. But after a few months, something changed. Maybe he decided he didn't like me. Maybe he was just bored. Whatever the reason, he made my life miserable. It started with complaints. If I mowed my lawn, he'd complain about the noise. If I had friends over, he'd complain about parking. If I put out holiday decorations, he'd complain that they were too bright. At first, I tried being friendly. I apologized even when I hadn't done anything wrong. Big mistake. Greg took that as encouragement. Soon, the police started showing up, constantly. One night, officers knocked on my door because Greg reported a loud party. The problem? I was home alone watching Netflix. Then he called about a supposedly aggressive dog roaming my property. I don't have a dog. Every report was nonsense. Thankfully, the officers quickly realized what was happening. For nearly a year, Greg found new reasons to call. Noise complaints, parking complaints, property complaints, anything he could think of. One officer eventually joked, "We know your address better than our own." Things got worse when I installed security cameras around my house. They only covered my property, but Greg absolutely hated them. He claimed I was spying on him. I wasn't. Honestly, I barely thought about him anymore. Then one Saturday morning, I woke up to find my mailbox knocked over, completely ripped out of the ground. I checked the camera footage, nothing. Or at least that's what I thought. One of the cameras had briefly lost connection during the night. Strange. A few days later, my internet cable was mysteriously cut. Then my garden lights disappeared. Then someone spray painted my fence. Every incident happened late at night, and somehow the cameras always seemed to have problems at exactly the wrong time. I started suspecting Greg, but suspicion isn't proof, so I upgraded my system. More cameras, battery backups, cloud storage, motion alerts. I didn't tell anyone, especially Greg. For about 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then one night at around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the app and nearly dropped my phone. There was Greg, standing in my yard wearing a black hoodie, holding wire cutters. He was literally cutting camera cables. I immediately called the police. But here's where things got interesting. Instead of waiting for officers to arrive, Greg decided to keep going. He walked over to my fence, spray painted it, then kicked over several planters. Then he did something incredibly stupid. He crossed back onto his property and started loading my stolen garden lights into his garage, all while being recorded. The police arrived within minutes. I watched from my window. At first, Greg acted confident. He denied everything, claimed he'd been asleep all night. Then one officer asked a simple question. "Would you like to see the video?" Greg's face changed instantly. The confidence disappeared. The officers spent about 20 minutes reviewing footage. Then one of them walked straight to Greg's garage. Guess what they found? My garden lights, my missing mailbox numbers, and several other items reported stolen by neighbors over the previous year. Turns out Greg had been vandalizing multiple homes, not just mine. And because he was always the one calling the police, nobody had seriously considered him a suspect. Until now. The investigation lasted months. The list of charges kept growing. Property damage, theft, false police reports, harassment. A few neighbors later admitted they'd almost moved away because of him. The craziest part? If Greg had simply left my cameras alone, he probably would have gotten away with everything. But he became so obsessed with bothering me that he practically recorded his own arrest. A few months later, a moving truck showed up. Greg was gone. The neighborhood actually held a barbecue to celebrate. No joke, one guy brought a cake. Another neighbor printed screenshots from the security footage. Someone even made a banner that said, "We finally have peace." Honestly, it was the most united the neighborhood had ever been.